Hi, I'm Gary. Our topic is ego death. I wanna show you a video to illustrate what is ego. So let's watch.
Training fleas requires a glass jar with a lid. The fleas are placed inside the jar, and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behavior is now set for the rest of their lives, and when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example.
Thus, material energy or the universal matrix called Maya programs us so that we consider ourselves to be this material body, and we are like these fleas who can jump further but do not believe that this is possible. Ego death, in short, is overcoming some kind of limiting firmware which we were programmed by illusory energy Maya from the time of immemorial. And this coming out of limiting beliefs is actually an ego death, and it is the final stage we get enlightenment, samadhi, devotional to the Supreme, etc. These topics are trending today. Internet is full of Kundalini euphoria, samadhi and all that stuff. So the teaching of yoga are vast and multifaceted, encompassing a wide range of philosophies, practices and paths. I'd like to examine this topic in detail in the context of original yoga system as it was given by the original yoga teachers. Unfortunately, up to the moment, not many authentic schools of Kundalini yoga that can confirm its parampara, which goes back to the Vedas or to the three original teachers of yoga like Krishna, Shiva and Patanjali, etc. Frequently, numerous yoga schools at best can refer to a parampara that is lost in ancient times, or they rely solely on their own personal experience and practices. In our exploration, we will delve deeply into this subject, seeking guidance from the original sources of yoga in order to distinguish between the authentic process of awakening Kundalini and ego death and the imagined processes created by humans. Therefore, today I would like citing authoritative sources to analyze such aspects as the awakening of Kundalini, dissolution of the ego, samadhi, enlightenment from the point of view of traditional schools of yoga, which have a connection with the Vedas through the valid parampara system. The death of ego is not possible while maintaining false identifications of oneself with one's body. We are not our mind, we are not our intelligence, we are not any temporary material things, we are eternal Atman. We face real death of ego on the stage of understanding oneself as eternal Atman, according to traditional yoga. This requires a transformation of consciousness, that is, we must come out of material nature and give up all limiting material beliefs. So, let's start from the very basics. What is the transformation of consciousness or raising consciousness to a transcendental level? Our consciousness is now conditioned or has a special firmware that narrows our perception and makes us believe that we are this body, and identify yourself with temporary material things, like the body is like me, I have a family, I live in such and such a country, I speak this language, I have such and such a nationality, I am a man, I am a woman, this is my house, this is my wife, etc. All this is the material firmware that makes up our ego. The initial stage of getting out of the influence of the matter is the practice of abstinence. That is, one must refrain the senses from their objects, because our consciousness does not exist separately from material objects, but it is attached to them. Therefore, it's necessary to give up the connection with material anchors which catch our consciousness. So let's recite original resources like Bhagavad Gita, for example.
When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga.
The key words are devoid of all material desires. So this phrase has a wide meaning. Actually, this condition when one has no material desires, including the main one, sex desire, is called samadhi or state of liberation.
One should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line and stares steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. And this is the commentary of Bhaktivedanta Swami. To realize this Vishnu Murthy within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from sex life. Therefore, one has to leave home and live alone in a secluded place, remaining seated as mentioned above. One cannot enjoy sex life daily at home or elsewhere, and attend a so-called yoga class, and thus become a yog. One has to practice controlling the mind and avoiding all kinds of sense gratification, of which sex life is the chief. In the rules of celibacy written by the great sage Yajnavalkya, it is said, "The vow of Brahmacharya is meant to help one completely abstain from sex indulgence in work, words, and mind, at all times, under all circumstances, and in all places." No one can perform correct yoga practice through sex indulgence.
This is what Bhagavad Gita says. Therefore, the practice of abstinence is the main fundamental initial stage of any genuine yoga school, and the master attachment of all attachments we must refrain from is the sexual desire. Now we go further to next source like Patanjali Yoga Sutras.
This idea is confirmed in Sutra 2.30 with Vivekananda's comment. Non-killing, truthfulness, non-stealing, continence, and non-receiving are called yama. A man who wants to be a perfect yogi must give up the sex idea. The soul has no sex. Why should it degrade itself with sex ideas? Sutra 2.38 states, Brahmacharya pradishtayam viryalabha, by the establishment of continence energy is gained. The chaste brain has tremendous energy, gigantic willpower. Without that there can be no mental strength. All men of gigantic brains are very continent. It gives wonderful control over mankind. Leaders of men have been very continent, and this is what gave them power. Therefore, the yogi must be continent. Now about the importance of Brahmacharya for Kundalini awakening. Kundalini refers to the primordial cosmic energy that lies dormant at the base of the spine in the Muladhara chakra. The aim of spiritual practice is to awaken this Shakti and guide it through the central channel called Sushumna Nadi, piercing through the chakras until it reaches the crown chakra. This process leads to spiritual enlightenment and liberation. Brahmacharya or celibacy is an essential prerequisite for awakening the Kundalini. As Swami Vivekananda states in his book Raja Yoga, the yogis say that part of the human energy which is expressed as sex energy in sexual thought, when checked and controlled, easily becomes changed into ojas, and as the Muladhara guides these, the yogi pays particular attention to that center. He tries to take up all his sexual energy and convert it into ojas. It is only the chaste man or woman who can make the ojas rise and store it in the brain. That is why chastity has always been considered the highest virtue. A man feels that if he is unchaste, spirituality goes away, he loses mental vigor and moral stamina. That is why in all the religious orders in the world which have produced spiritual giants, you will always find absolute chastity insisted upon. That is why the monks came into existence, giving up marriage.
A brahmachari practices not attachment to sensual pleasures. This helps gain mastery over the senses, mind, and desires. When sexual energy is conserved, it can be channeled upwards through disciplined practices to awaken the dormant Kundalini. Brahmacharya facilitates the free flow of prana or vital energy in the subtle body channels. It purifies the nadis, especially the central Sushumna channel, so that the Kundalini Shakti can pass through easily when awakened. As Swami Shivananda explains,
this seminal energy is verily the Atman. The secret of health lies in preservation of this vital force. He who wastes this vital and precious energy cannot have physical, mental, moral, and spiritual development.
Celibacy works on the law of energy conservation. Virya Shakti is transmuted into Ojas Shakti or spiritual energy, which leads to the awakening of psychic centers and powers called siddhis. Brahmacharya aids one-pointed focus and concentration, which is vital for meditation and Kundalini awakening. Brahmacharya involves controlling not just physical celibacy, but also celibacy in thought, word, and deed, as Vivekananda explains.
There must be perfect chastity in thought, word, and deed. Without it, the practice of Raja Yoga is dangerous and may lead to insanity. If people practice Raja Yoga and at the same time lead an impure life, how can they expect to become yogis?
A disturbed mind due to sexual distractions cannot meditate properly. Thus, Brahmacharya creates the right energetic and mental environment for the Kundalini Shakti to awaken and flow freely through the Sushumna. The fruits of Brahmacharya are immense: good health, mental purity, longevity, photographic memory, spiritual strength, and ultimately moksha. By following this vital yogic virtue, the practitioner gains control over the subtle forces of the body and mind in order to achieve the supreme goal of self-realization. So now let's talk about ego death. What is ego death? Transcending the ego in Patanjali Yoga Sutras. The ancient practice of Raja Yoga provides a path to enlightenment through gaining mastery over the mind. A key aspect of this journey is the dissolution of the ego, or the sense of a limited individual self, as Swami Vivekananda explains in his book Raja Yoga.
44. By making samyama on the real modifications of the mind outside of the body, called great disembodiedness, comes disappearance of the covering to light. The mind in its foolishness thinks that it is working in this body. Why should I be bound by one system of nerves and put the ego only in one body if the mind is omnipresent? There is no reason why I should. The yogi wants to feel the ego wherever he likes. The mental waves which arise in the absence of egoism in the body are called real modifications, or great disembodiedness. When he has succeeded in making samyama on these modifications, all covering to light goes away, and all darkness and ignorance vanish. Everything appears to him to be full of knowledge.
When we identify solely with our individual egos, we are trapped in avidya, ignorance. The awakening of Kundalini and its ascension through the chakras leads to the realization of one's true nature beyond ego, as Vivekananda states further.
According to the yogis, there are two nerve currents in the spinal column, called Pingala and Ida, and a hollow canal called Sushumna running through the spinal cord. At the lower end of the hollow canal is what the yogis call the lotus of the Kundalini. They describe it as triangular in form, in which, in the symbolical language of the yogis, there is a power called the Kundalini coiled up. When that Kundalini awakes, it tries to force a passage through this hollow canal, and as it rises step by step, as it were, layer after layer of the mind becomes open, and all the different visions and wonderful powers come to the yogi. When it reaches the brain, the yogi is perfectly detached from the body and mind. The soul finds itself free.
The dissolution of the ego happens through the expansion of consciousness to transcend the limitation of the mind. When the veil of ignorance is removed, one realizes the unification of the knower, knowledge, and known. The subject and object merge, revealing the true self.
The bottom of a lake we cannot see, because its surface is covered with ripples. It is only possible for us to catch a glimpse of the bottom when the ripples have subsided and the water is calm. If the water is muddy or is agitated all the time, the bottom will not be seen. If it is clear and there are no waves, we shall see the bottom. The bottom of the lake is our own true self.
Through sustained spiritual practice, the yogi gains viveka, or discrimination, to differentiate the real from the unreal. Identification with the body, mind, and ego falls away. What remains is the absolute, our true essence. Ego death leads to enlightenment in Raja Yoga. Thus, Raja Yoga provides practical techniques to take the sadhaka beyond the ego sense. As Swami Vivekananda proclaims, "Conquer your mind and be free." The journey culminates in Kaivalya, absolute freedom through the realization of the self which transcends the limited ego. So in summary, the dissolution of ego identification during a Kundalini awakening can be challenging and disorienting initially. With time, proper guidance and perseverance in practice, one can integrate the awakened state and stabilize in the new consciousness. I talk about various schools of yoga in my other video, which is available in description. In a nutshell, the path of yoga is not easy. There are many stumbling blocks on this path, not only such as false teachings, the main task of which is to substitute concepts and monetize the leaders of these yoga schools, but also such as true teachings presented by unqualified and unauthorized motivated yoga gurus. And in fact, 90% of what is called yoga today looks like a yoga, but is not such at all. Having some experience in practicing yoga in traditional authoritative yoga school and collaborating with various commercial yoga schools, I have come to the following conclusion. While in the former case the practice of meditation revolves around revering the divine and achieving inner union with the Paramatma residing in our hearts, commercial yoga schools are mere facades pretending to meditate on the Supreme while actually worshipping the golden calf. Consequently, such yoga schools are engaged solely on external activities and entirely devoid of internal substance. They are purely business-oriented. And to find a genuine, qualified master of yoga is not an easy task. Occasionally, news reports highlight instances where renowned yoga gurus are implicated in sex scandals or engage in behaviors that contradict the teachings of yoga. This observation sheds light on the qualifications of a guru in such cases. If a yoga guru fails to exercise control over the sexual desires and senses, it raises questions about their understanding and practice of yoga. In this context, true yoga entails mastery over the senses rather than indulgence in them. And what is the test to determine the level of qualification of a yoga teacher? The answer is given in Bhagavad Gita.
When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga.
So the qualification of yoga guru is how far he is free from material desires. Let's stop here. Thank you for watching. Forgive if I broke some of your conceptions. Good luck everyone. Jai Shri Hari.